Weekdays, just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. Final segment of the first hour here of First and 12. Right here on KSL News Radio 102.7 FM, 1160 AM. Of course, you can always get the digital version of the show. Same content, just on your podcast feature, wherever you download your podcast. So go subscribe today. Go get all of the shows. Don't miss anything in the Big 12 and beyond right here on our program. Let's jump in here. We've got our games of the week. You want to start off here, Mitch? I think you and I both agree what the actual biggest one is, but I think there's a couple sneaky ones in there as well.
There is. And, for me, I look at this Iowa State at Cincinnati game on Saturday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, so that'll be noon at Nippert Stadium. But
is that the big noon kickoff?
This is ESPN2. It's ESPN2. No Dave Portnoy doing pizza reviews in Cincy. Look, just a side note, it feels like on that, the big noon kickoff, it really feels like it's a bigger deal. Maybe I'm just more exposed to it because of the Big 12, but when they go to Big 12 venues, it feels like a bigger event. When they go to the Big 10 schools, it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm hyper-focused to Big 12.
You know what? I don't think you're wrong. There's definitely like a delineation. There's people who are like, it's like a Coke and Pepsi thing with, game day versus big noon kickoff. Mm-hmm. And you have people who, certain parts of the country, they're like, that's our jam right there. And other people who are like, I'll take it, I guess, in a pinch. Pepsi, okay? No, it's not, but I guess it's the only thing I have, so sure. But I do think that, I think it's a moment, though, that you can, a 10 a.m. game in Cincinnati, that is so, I know it's an East Coast time. I know it's an Eastern time, technically, but it's a weird one.
ESPN2.
And it's on ESPN2. But it's sneaky.
Huge game, though.
It's sneaky because Cincinnati, in their loss to Nebraska, you and I both agreed, and I bet if they played Nebraska this week, they'd beat them. You know what I mean? Like, they just weren't there yet. They're right on the cusp. I think they're figuring some things out, and I like that team. I don't necessarily know if I like it for an upset yet. I'll have to convince myself of that.
They're the favorite.
That's wild.
Cincy is the favorite in this game. And you know what? I am bought into some of the players on Cincy's defense. Jake Golday might be the best linebacker in the Big 12. Him and Isaiah Glasker and Kelly at BYU, they've got they're the three best backers in this league. Sorsby, underrated his ability to run. He's the leading rusher for Cincinnati. Like, we'll get to our picks a little bit later, but this could be just stacking up the big wins for Cincy. They are the favorite against the 14th-ranked Cyclones. So if Iowa State gets this one, they should get some respect for the fact that they go on the road and they could get this win. That should climb them in the polls. But that's, again, going back to our discussion about the rankings. Would they get the credit for a victory like this if they do go into a spot like Cincinnati and get a win where they're an underdog? But pollsters will say, Cincinnati hasn't done anything since they went to the playoff 4 years ago. That's not that big of a win. But it really would be if Iowa State can pull it off.
You know, what's interesting is that if about a month and a half ago we were to look at this weekend schedule on October 4th, we would have been like, circle the Baylor-Kansas State game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a 3-2 Baylor team taking on a 2-3 Kansas State team that we're just kind of going, call me when you guys have a winner and tell us what happens, and then we'll start to judge you a little bit after that. But my game of the week isn't necessarily also one I think that would turn a ton of heads. But it's interesting because it's two undefeated teams. Two teams that are 4-0. The conference has a handful of undefeateds right now. And I think they have some that are legitimate contenders, and they have some that are kind of going on borrowed time, I think, a little bit. And Houston's one of those teams. Just because we're not used to Houston winning 4 games unless it's the very end of the season, they're at their win total from last year. The year before that, what were they? 3 wins the year before that?
Yep.
So it's just not a team that wins a lot of games every year, but they're 4-0 right now, which feels fake, and yet they've done it. So it is what it is. And Texas Tech has to go to Houston. Texas Tech is coming off a bye week. Do they show up a little bit flat against Houston? I doubt it. But you're going to Houston. So Texas Tech is going to get challenged because they're going on the road. And I know it's a Houston team that's undefeated, but it's still 2 teams that are 4-0. And you just have to kind of keep your eyes on that one because I think that going to Houston is a little bit more tricky. Not like they're going to pack that place out and be, it's not known for being the wild, the wild stadium situation. But I do think that the Texas Tech goes in there. They're probably heavy favorites, but at the same time, 2 of the undefeateds facing off against one another in Houston.
I think it's a good matchup, and there's some intrigue, too, to what does Texas Tech do at quarterback? Will Hammond was so good in that game against Utah. Joey McGuire did say that Baron Morton was a full participant in practice earlier this week on Sunday, so it would seem like he's trending towards being available, I would imagine. But I think you kind of have a conversation because Hammond was so good against Utah in the biggest game to date this season. Do you ride that hot hand with Hammond, or do you just go back to Morton, who was excellent as well?
You know, we didn't even talk about it afterward, but remember the day after, or during that press conference when Joey McGuire was asked about him, and he goes, just want to let everybody know he's on a 2-year contract. And I was like, oh, and by the way.
I love that about Joey McGuire.
I know.
It's so cool.
But I will say this, though. He is on a 2-year contract until he isn't. You know what I mean? Like, what's going to, when he walks away from it and he has to owe them a couple of dollars, you know, to go to be a starter at another school, you don't think BYU or Utah would lick their chops on a guy who already has the background as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they go, he came in here and was like off the bench, maybe the most accurate guy we've seen up at Rice-Eccles Stadium in years? Wild. But that being said, it is 2025. Hey, he's under contract. Our backup quarterback is under contract. I'll tell you what, though, if there's any place that their backup quarterback is going to be getting paid to the point where he's probably not even going to be tempted to leave, it's going to be Texas Tech, right? So, dogs of games this week, by the way, I've got a couple for you. Kansas going to UCF. I mean, it's a pick 'em on. I think that Kansas is going to they're going to get right. But we immediately forgot those guys after they lose at home because Lance Leipold keeps doing this to us. We keep thinking this team's – Jalen Daniels keeps doing this to us. We keep thinking that this guy's going to get better than he actually is, and it just hasn't solidified yet. Maybe they turn some things around. Oklahoma State going to Arizona. Arizona's probably going to take out all their frustrations of a quick start on Oklahoma State, who's now going to be absolutely listless now that they go on the road. But so across the conference, though, Utah's on a bye. So you're looking at that and you're going, okay, not going to see much there. Colorado goes to TCU. That's a terrible follow-up to have to go from losing at home to BYU to going down to Fort Worth, where TCU is ready to sharpen those swords and absolutely pounce on you. So
it's going to be an interesting week, but I do believe that that Iowa State and Cincy game is the game of the week. And
I think so too.
If you would have said that when Cincinnati joined the league a few years ago, you would have said, what? No chance. But
well, the rest of the country probably is. They're looking at that and going, Cincinnati and Iowa State, that's the best you got, huh?
That's
the best you guys got, and you go, look, no, it's an important game. All right, we'll take another break here. We'll come back. Our second hour is going to kick off. We got so many things to get into, including our weekly back and forth fest of trying to figure out what our power rankings are. It's a dadgum mess every week. We'll get right here to it. More to go around the corner. It is 102.7 FM, 1160 AM. It's First and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. Stay with us.